It is a real pleasure for me, on behalf of the program on extremism, to welcome Manuel Navarrete. I consider it to be a true privilege to have him on this table, in this room today, not only because of his extraordinary service on counterterrorism in Spain, both concerning the fight against ETA and the fight against jihadist terrorism, but also considering his also extraordinary service today as head of Europol Counter Terrorism Centre. To find a proper way in order to framework his presence here today, it came to my mind this morning that just 8 years ago, 2011, most people were holding unfounded expectations about the decline of jihadism, global jihadism, and the global jihadist threat. On the one hand, 2011, the number of plots, jihadist plots, in this case in Western Europe, are declining to the lowest level since 9/11. On the other hand, there was this widespread notion about the leaderless jihad. Both things combined provided a forecast which was far from what happened as from immediately the year after. Far from fading away, global jihadism and the global jihadist threat initiated just the year after that in 2012, an unprecedented level of jihadist mobilization in Western Europe. It is true that this mobilization has not affected, similarly, all European Union member states. But one should be emphasizing that the mobilization has been unprecedented in terms of radicalized individuals, in terms of the production of terrorist fighters, and of course in terms of the corollary of all of this, that is attacks and plots in Western Europe, from Paris, Brussels, Manchester, Berlin, Nice, or Barcelona, among many others. So, all these recent developments, the fact that we have now bipolar jihadist movement, both Al-Qaeda and Islamic State existing as a threat in Western Europe. In addition now to new sources of threat coming from, for instance, right-wing movements and organizations. All this makes particularly timely the visit today of Manuel Navarrete, General Manuel Navarrete, by the way. As you know, he belongs to one of the two police bodies in Spain with nationwide competence in counterterrorism, the Guardia Civil. And as I said before, he has this extraordinary long-standing experience in fighting ETA and has also worked in leadership positions on matters of intelligence, police intelligence, and the fight against international terrorism in Spain. He joined Europol in 2014, if I am correct, and is heading the European Counter Terrorism Centre since January 2016. So once again, Manuel, I have to say something else, by the way. He followed specialized courses in Spain, other European countries, Quantico, all the locations within the United States, some Arab countries as well. But most important of then all for me is the fact that he has a master's in terrorism studies at the time that the master's program was headed by myself. So we can just imagine when I tell my students about this. The current head of counterterrorism at Europol is a former student of mine. So I have to add to this that he was and still is the best student we have by far. Thank you very much. Well, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Fernando, for these nice words. I'm not only a former student, I'm also following you every single day. Everything that you publish is the most interest for the counterterrorism community. So I still are your most, let's say, follower. I can speak as a student working against terrorism. Thank you for this very kind word. Thank you for your presence here today. Thank you to all of you for taking the time to spend this hour with me here to see and to know more about the European Union and the security dimension of it, also our efforts to combat counterterrorism at the European Union level, also globally, in close cooperation with the US. It's a privilege to be here today at the European University. Being a European, also being Spanish, a lot of emotions connected to my presence here today. Also to Professor Lorenzo Vidino. And he has a very difficult decision to make, to come here to my speech or to get married. He decided to get married. He will regret this. He would like to be here today and not to get married. Can never learn. So it's an honor for me to speak to you about the international police cooperation in the European Union. I'll try to speak for 40 minutes. I will look at the watch to be sure that I will leave some time for your questions. And as Professor Renares mentioned, I am a practitioner. I'm a professional of the security. I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a politician. So please take all the statement I'm going to make today coming from this point of view. As a professional for more than 30 years working against counterterrorism. This is my profession. This is my passion. And I'm glad to share with you today my experience, a lesson learned, many mistakes, and a couple of successful stories in the European Union. Because there's a long story behind the international cooperation of the European Union. Also, I understand this to be quite difficult to understand, to see why the European Union is the way it is. Why you see many times criticizing the Schengen system, why the people can move freely. The terrorists can move freely from Spain to France to Belgium with no borders. Do we have enough information exchange? What can we do with the foreign terrorist fighter? Do we have enough tools to identify them and to prevent the attacks to happen? What is the real threat that we have in the European Union? Is only jihadists, also right wing? What is the connection to the Mediterranean? What is the connection to the other side of the Atlantic? There are many questions that come into the same place at the same time. So we have to speak about politics, about money, about philosophy, but also especially about security. I propose you this agenda to speak about international cooperation, more specifically the historical background of the security and cooperation inside the European Union. I will touch upon the driving factors to define why the European Union is the way it is, and especially focus what it means for the security, for the components, the security component for the EU. The latest European Union development, where we are right now, when we speak about security, and of course I will speak about the role of Europol as the European Police Agency for the European Union, and the role of European Counter Terrorism Centre we am responsible for. I'm also touching upon the current threat. We just finished our report for 2018, and we share. It will be published today. Yeah, it will be published today in a few hours in Europe. So you will have the first highlights from what we're seeing in Europe for the year 2018. Well, international cooperation always is a dynamic tension. There's always a tension between sovereignty and dependence. The European Union, the security of every single member state depend on each other. And in the meantime, depends on the close neighborhood. But also it's a national security component. It's a national security issue. So always you will see there is a balance, try to find a balance between keeping our national interest, but in the meantime, depends on the national interest of our neighborhoods. And you will see there's always a tension. Every time that we have specific discussion about security, there is strong pulling factor. We want to have a more centralized approach. We want more Europe. We want the European Union to be more active. Even we think to have a European FBI sometimes. But at the meantime, the more that we speak about that, some of the countries say, well, maybe this is too much. Going to the European FBI, maybe this is the wrong shot. Maybe we should try to articulate some special mechanism to balance the power between the strong centralization in Brussels and the national interest of the member states. This is why when you go to Brussels, you start talking about mussels and different things, and also chocolate you can find in Brussels. The two more words that you can see inside the European Union are negotiation and compromise. The whole European Union is based on that, negotiation and compromise, which is not easy to align sometimes. So there is a difference between the European Union and the European states. I mean, we have strong and common legal framework in many areas, but still, as you can see on the right side, the European Union is not comparable we have at the European state. But there is a trend to join efforts in order to be stronger at the European Union level. Sometimes there is a confusion between what is the European Union and what is not in the European Union. But they have a strong connection, a strong political, economical, and security connection to most of the members of Europe, most of the countries in Europe. The question is, Europe was formed as a political entity. In fact, we started as an economical entity, the European community, the European economical community. And then we became a political entity. And in the meantime, we developed a security component of the European Union. The problem is that we mostly focus on the economical commitment, the economical development, and also the political arrangement to be sure that we have a strong European Union. But the security component was behind schedule. If I can compare the size of these two European Union politically and from the security point of view, maybe the size would be like that. We still are not fully developed the security component of the European Union. It's not matching the political dimension, but it's growing. And also because of different factors. To have a proper security system, you need three main elements. You need security elements to detect and to prevent actions, defensive action to happen. You need a network, the communication system, and you need a brain. You need somebody who is managing the whole phenomenon. You need a methodology to obtain information, to collect information, to analyze, and provide this as an intelligence to prevent security risk, to prevent security to any kind of attacks to the nation. In the European Union, we have driving factors. Mostly, as I mentioned, was formed based on economical factors, human factors, and security factors. Economy is always a leading factor. We want to be more advanced, economically speaking. We want to be fast on moving the borders away in order to provide a free environment for the economy to flow and to have a cooperation among the member states. Human factors can be leading but also limiting. We promote the movement of people inside the European Union, but in the meantime, we want to reinforce the external border in order to have a legal and proper immigration flow inside the European Union. As this balance is moving, then the human factor can be, the pulling factor can be promoting more European Union, but at the meantime, as you can see now politically, it could be a factor that can somehow limit how much the member states want to go ahead into this kind of cooperation. And the same for security. We need more security. We need more centralized system at the European level. But in the meantime, I want to preserve my national entity. I want to preserve my national decision-making process, especially when we speak about terrorism, because it's so sensitive. I prefer to make decisions first and then share with the European Union members. So the police cooperation somehow is based on this factor. Just to give you a brief overview how we start. As I said, we start focusing on the economy, setting up the European economic community based on achieving a support and also the mobility of people for economical meaning, for economical goals. The police cooperation started the same way. We start setting up the Conference of Judicial Police. Then we had the Vienna Conference, and we have in 1956 we have the first time setting up Interpol. Interpol is an inter-police cooperation association. So the police are represented at Interpol. Have a different meaning than Europol. Europol is European Union agency based on European Union legal framework. Interpol is a treaty. It's an inter-police treaty where the member states, they shouldn't have political affiliation. This is something to discuss. So it's the police representing themselves into this framework, this environmental cooperation. Europol, we have a legal framework, we have European Union agency, and we follow the European Union rules. How was Europe in the 60s? Why change the whole environment when we speak about terrorism? We suffered the so-called Palestinian terrorist tragedy during the 70s, and this is the first creation of an intelligence community. Always intelligence react first, after law enforcement and judicial. So the reaction to the attack that we suffered during the 70s was the creation of intelligence community, the group that were in order to all the intelligence services to connect and to exchange information at the intelligence level. So security was the driving factor to do this. But in the meantime, it was dynamized by the political aim, the political activity coming from the so-called Cherry Group. Just to give you an idea how the European Union will form, we don't have a kind of master plan when somebody decide this is the European Union and this is how it is organized. In fact, it's the opposite. We were facing different challenges, economical challenge, human challenge, and also security challenge, and then we set up specific tools to focus on this challenge. So we rather the European Union was formed bottom up than top down. Every single problem was faced by the European Union or European solution. So the first solution for the terrorists in the 70s for the creation of the Trevi Minister of Council, when a few member states decided we have to do more, not only on intelligence, also on judicial and law enforcement dimension. This is why you see the working group of terrorism, training on technology, fight against international crime, and focus on different activities to develop a common strategy. This is really new. I mean, to speak about the 70 to have a strategy was something that we have seen before the European Union. And they create the communication system. Remember the three components. First, you need to have defensive material to identify the risk. And second, you need to have a communication system. First was the intelligence system. And second, the second layer was the liaison officer, the DDL, to be connected to deal with information exchange. This is the first time that we speak about this in the European Union level. Then we extend the cooperation to different areas, like football hooligan, border control, but we will never address until late 90s the issue of migration as an asylum seeker. This was during the 90s till 85, when some of the member states decide we want to create a free space for movement of people, capitals, and other material. We want to reinforce the external border of the European Union, but in the meantime, we want to allow free movement inside the European Union, because economically, and for the human factor was very was needed in order to fully develop the European Union. See, still there is no mention about security here. So first economic, second human, then what about security? Security came, well, this is the main features of the Schengen Agreement for you to know. We set up a specific information system to be sure that we secure the external border of the European Union by reinforcing the information exchange inside the member states. We create a system at national level, which is also reproduced at the international level, when all the member states, all the law enforcement have access, and they can flag specific threat coming from organized crime, coming from terrorism, coming from cybercrime, in order to prevent and to identify this threat and to take action at national level to do so. You see, this is became a central instrument of border security, and how many terminals we have, including the UK, which is a different position in the Schengen system today. But I say, the real European Union, talking about security, came later. We developed a lot of areas of cooperation about the area without frontiers. The treaty structure became part of the European Union, and then the Council, the Minister of emerged as a dominant factor, and then we gradually was implementing the whole Schengen system inside the European Union legislation. So we start with a few member states sharing a specific area of freedom, and then we translate this, we transport this for the whole European Union. So usually, as I said, it's bottom up. So we have this full cooperation in some member states, and then became a European integration at the later stage. It was in 2001 when, for the first time, we developed the first component of the security, freedom, and justice. So think about what we started, the European Union, the European community, almost 20 years ago, but still 2001, we have not this component inside the European Union. Still the national members that were responsible for the national security. No decision beside this cooperation taking place for the Treaty Council inside properly the European Union structure. No majority decision, because even that we accept that now the area of security, justice, and freedom is part of the European Union, the member states want to keep the national interest when we speak about national security, especially about terrorism. So they decide that we not communitarize the decision-making process on security, on economy, on human issues, yes, but we have the majority of the European Union, but when we speak about security, we have full house. We need the consensus to take every single initiative to accept any proposal in order to be part of the European Union security component. This is why it's so complicated sometimes to achieve some result, and this is why, again, negotiation and compromise are the two key factors to work on security. What happened in 2001? Do you remember where you were in 2001? The one on the last row, you were too young. Do you remember where you were in 2001?
Preschool.
Yeah, preschool, 18 years ago. It's like, I was trying to see how, I speak 2001 because I was in The Hague, by the way. I was in Europol, attending a meeting when the terrorist attacks in Washington and New York. So for me, it's very fresh in my mind, 2001. What happened, why happened, and what the reaction of the whole community after 2001. For the young people, it's difficult. It's like watching a Second World War movie. It's like, yes, somebody told me that happened, but I don't have in my memory this fact, but it was a real fact, and it changed completely, not only the US, also especially in the European Union, how we deal with terrorism. The first reaction was, we need to have a policy of terrorism. We have to develop tools of intelligence, military, police, sometimes in a parallel way, and we have an explosion of international organizations. There was no single organization in the world that have no chapter of terrorism. Everybody wants to have some expert on working on terrorism, because it was really the challenge that we faced. And the European Union, you see, we have set up a priority objective, we have a counter resolution, We have a definition of terrorist crime, we have a definition of terrorist group, we have the definition of conspiracy facilitation, we create the Eurojust, we create the arrest warrant, we create the CTG, we create. Why we create things? Why did you create something? Because you don't have it before. You see, all these measures that is so obvious now we have, it was not there until 2001. By the way, 2002 was the Spanish presidency. The Spanish presidency was the one, after the Belgian one, taking the lead on setting up the European arrest warrant, the creation of the Eurojust, the investigative teams. So most of these took place just after 9/11. So there was strong reaction against this one. And the meantime, you see, we created a strategy. Why we have a strategy in 2002? How can we fight against terrorism without having a strategy before? Anyone? Because the strategy means planning. Strategy means having resources for the future. Because until 2001, we were reacting. We were only trying to identify the terrorists, arrest them, and then the case is solved. 2001 showed that the global threat is not going to stop in 9/11. In fact, we have the attacks in Madrid in 11 of March, and then we have the attacks in London in 2005. So it was a totally different dimension. There's no anymore enough for the citizen, for you, for the police, for the intelligence, to identify the terrorists, to arrest them, or when they commit suicide, just to finish the case. We cannot accept 2,000 people killed anymore. So this is why we move from reacting to the prevention side, to mitigate the cause of terrorism, to see how early we can detect the terrorist plot, to see what kind of funding, what kind of means we need to prevent the terrorists to progress. To do this, you have to ask your resources. You have to have a plan to be sure that you have what you need to have in order to prevent this to happen. This is called strategy. It was invented by the military a long, long time ago. And then we put it in our portfolio. And then this happened. This was the reaction of the European Union. 240 actions, 26 action plans, 25 regulations, 15 directives, framework decision, recommendation, resolution, conclusion, action, common position, 8 international agreements. Paper. So there was a strong reaction at the political level, but it was difficult to digest at the operational level. Again, the balance between sovereignty and dependence. Sometimes the political input is so strong, is so high, that we cannot translate this political input into the operational side. And the other way around. Sometimes operationally it's so difficult to transmit that what we need to the political level, but we need this kind of tragedies to see, you see, now we need a strategy. You see, now we need a plan. You see, now we have to prevent this to happen again. So this was the reaction. And what's happened later? Just what Professor Reynaldi just said. We put in place many tools. We have the European arrest warrant, the definition of terrorism, action plans, a lot of information exchange. We managed to decrease the terrorist threat. And then from 2006, the terrorist attack was decreasing. So we closed the cycle. We were expecting really Al-Qaeda to be attacking European Union, US, almost every month, because they were ready to. I mean, they have the capability, they have the intentions, and we had the opportunity. But we managed to, using military means, using the intelligence means, law enforcement and judiciary, to reduce this threat, to combat the global threat with the global justice. So we reduced this to the minimum in 2011. And then what happened? So the whole political dimension, this many resolution that was taken just after 9/11 start not to have a full implementation inside the European Union. So we start just to move back to the original idea. Okay, let's try to find the balance between the national component and the international component. And then we have, in 2015, the Paris attack. It's not comparable with what we suffered in Europe in 2015, where we have a Charlie Hebdo attack, where we have Paris attack, Friday 13, and then we have the attacks in Brussels later on in March 2016. It's not comparable to 9/11, but somehow I think these three attacks represent the European Union 9/11. The wake-up call to, again, to do more. So again, the factor was the economy. We were in the middle of the crisis, so we need money to do more, but still the crisis was limiting how much money you have for leading this security component of the European Union. Also, we were in the middle of the human crisis. In 2015, we have the massive legal immigration flow coming from Syria, Iraq, to the coast of Europe through Turkey and to the European Union. And also, we have the attacks in 2015. So we have the perfect storm. The economy was going not that well. We have strong pressure from the human factor, but in the meantime, we need to do more in security. So, let's see. So we need to recuperate the economic growth in order to have the resources to face the security. We have to deal with internal mobility, and in the meantime, to try to mitigate the pressure in the European Union borders. And also, we need to fight against terrorism in a more systematic way. We have to recuperate this spirit after 9/11 in order to face the terrorism, which is knocking on the door 3 times, very shorter, in the European Union territory. Not only European territory, but especially European Union territory. And then we have the strong political imposition. So this was the first meeting after the attacks in Paris. It was a meeting of the Council in Brussels in March 2015. We had the security agenda, we had the inter-security strategy, and we have another council in 20 of November 2015. And you can see the minister, the political level told us, stepping up, addressing the issue, increased cooperation. What they are telling us? They are telling us not to reinvent the wheel. You already have a lot of tools. You have many measures, political agreement, you have treaties, you have everything in your hands. Do it, implement it. There is no need to have a new magic tool to resolve the problem. We already have Europol, Eurojust, intelligence service, cooperation with the US, terrorist financing tracking program. Use it because they are there for you. And this is what we did. So based on that, we try to concentrate efforts setting up a tool at the European Union level. Still, until 2015, still the main cooperation on counterterrorism was done bilaterally. And we were working very well, intelligence to intelligence of the European Union. And many of the countries, they have excellent cooperation with the US, with all the different services, with the competence on terrorism here. There are liaison officers from many countries here, and also liaison officers from the US and the European Union. So the question is how we can manage to have a different approach. And this match exactly what is the Europol vision and objective. So because Europol is a central law for operational support. It's a central law for expertise, and also it's information. This is the main products of Europe, the main priorities of the main features of Europol. We have expertise. We can store data from member states. We have 250 liaison officers working in our building, 25 from the US, so 10% from the US. We have liaison officers from all the member states. We also from Colombia, Australia, all the members that all the countries that we have an operational agreement. We'll show you who they are. They have liaison officers that can work together. You can just have cooperation between Belgium and US, just crossing the border. Just go to a cafeteria and have a coffee about a case that you are dealing with drugs, illegal immigration, child pornography, or terrorism. This is one of the beauties of Europol, this close connection of liaison officers. And also we have a secure communication system, Siena, as you see there. The member states were giving us one by one specific crime areas. As I said, we have not just, Europol was not created and we have full responsibility of every single crime area. No? The member state very carefully was giving us one by one, now you can deal with that. Now you can support this kind of action. Now you can deal with, because they want to control in all time the information. Especially in terrorism, they want to be sure the information that they share, which is the goal that they have can be properly treated, and they can receive the feedback or the analytical product that we can produce at Europol or the cooperation with the member states. This is why you see every single competence have to be 28 members have to authorize that Europol can work in this area supporting the member states. We have no executive power. We're just facilitating the member states to understand each other and to move forward in a specific area. So, going too fast. External cooperation, we have 28 member states. We will see what the UK decide on 30th of October, still to be seen. For the time being, we are still 28 member states. We have operational agreements, meaning that we can exchange personal data with this country. We have Albania, Australia, Montenegro, Switzerland, US. All these countries, they have liaison officer in our building, working 24/7 on a specific operation. Also, we have different strategic agreement, but we have just a technical cooperation with it, just to see you the footprint of Europol globally. This is some of the product that we prepare, cross-border reports, intelligence notifications, and the specific strategic reports. And going to terrorism, after the attack in Paris and Brussels, then the member states said we need to have a common approach on counter-terrorism. It's not enough to have bilateral cooperation. We cannot, the national security, the European Union security cannot be just adding 28 national security components. It's not the security of Spain plus France plus Germany plus Italy plus Malta. We have to have a clear security component inside the European Union. Not only all 28 different components we can articulate. So we need to increase the international dimension of the threat. We need, for a European Union perspective, we have to develop this. And we have to also develop the European Union response to terrorism, not only the Spanish, the Italian, or the German. The European Union response to terrorism. So we set up the Counter Terrorism Centre in a very short time, taking resources from different member states, emphasizing especially the transatlantic cooperation. I think without the US cooperation, I think it was not be possible to set up the European Counter Terrorism. Because the information exchange that we had with the US, with the American agency, was the attraction for the member state to share information at European Union. So without this trial between member states, Europol and US, the ECTC won't be a reality right now. We focus on, as I said, you go back to the Europol vision and mission, information hub for terrorism, coordinating activities, strategic approach, focus on direct support, and especially we open a dimension of online investigation. Why we focus on this one? Because the member states, they have a national dimension of cybercrime and the use of different internet by the terrorists. We don't have a European dimension. And this is a free space. You can have some limitation and some reluctancy for the member state to share information that they produce, coming from the source or coming from electronic intelligence. When you go to the cyberspace, it's a free environment. So you can really collect information very useful for the member states with the limits of being a European Union institution with no executive powers. So we try to become one single point for city support to provide integrated analytical, connecting organized crime, cybercrime, financial intelligence to fight against terrorism. Everything in one single. There's no other way you can do it. The only place in the European Union where you can find this. We align the activities on online and offline, especially connected to the industry. I will mention a little bit later a strong cooperation with the major open source providers like Google, like Twitter, like Facebook, in order to make them aware that first they are victims of terrorism, because the terrorists, they were using the network, they were using the system. At the meantime, they have a reputation about what kind of service you provide to the community. And also they have an obligation to work along with the security forces in order to mitigate the propaganda machine that we're using this platform to incite, to propagate, and to increase the risk for terrorist activity in every single member state. This is what we are releasing today. We have 13 people killed in Europe connected to terrorism in 2018. 2017 we have 68 people. And we moved from more than 100 to now 13 people killed in the European Union. You can see in 2017 how many attacks we suffered. Mostly jihadist terrorism, but also some connected to left-wing, right-wing terrorism and international terrorism. Still we have this activity. All the people killed is connected to so-called jihadist terrorism. Still remain the main threat to the European Union. So being the one that probably less attacked, still they are on top of producing more victims. This is why still the priority for the European Union. You will see on the columns on the right side that we moved from, we have 7 complete attacks producing 13 victims, 1 failed and 16 foil attacks. So the European Union security forces, intelligence, law enforcement managed to stop this to happen many, many times. And this is the key factor to reduce the number of victims inside the European Union. This means that the information is flowing. This means that the analysis is producing results. And this means that we are able now to anticipate and therefore to prevent the attacks to happen. If we can predict the attacks, we can prevent it. Predictable is preventable. So this foil attack shows that the European Union commitment, the European Union information exchange taking place is rewarded, is paying back. But we go to the, just to have an overview, you see how we move from 2015, number of attacks connected to different kind of terrorism, where we are in 2018. The figures are good, and also, but still, the cooperation is still very high. With the low numbers of terrorist attacks, with the low number of victims, still the pressure for the community, for the law for the community is very high. Almost the same numbers of arrests that we have in 2018 compared to 2016, 2015. Meaning that the information is flowing, meaning that the analysis is producing results, meaning that the cooperation with the US and many countries is giving benefits, is profitable for everybody, and therefore we can anticipate and prevent attacks and therefore produce the victims inside the European Union and also outside the European Union. This is the result of 5 years of working within a strategy. This is the result of 5 years having a plan and implementing many of the tools that we have a long time ago in the pipeline or in the file of the European Union, but now putting this in place in the European Counter Terrorism Centre, really providing security to the European Union citizens and to all of you. See that I mentioned this one. We are not still there. We're still watching how the situation is evolving. We are still very focused on the activity of the foreign terrorist fighters, where they are going now, what is still there in Syria and Iraq, how many have been killed, how many can try to get back to the European Union or to the Mediterranean countries, because there is a clear connection to that. How many try to move to Philippines, or to Indonesia, we have some cases. It will be a new Islamic State in Libya. So we still are watching this information in order to prevent to happen. We realize that if they are able to set up a kind of organization, they will become stronger. It's difficult now to assess what is the threat because it's dispersed, but at the meantime, we are now taking measures to assess and to identify tools to prevent this threat to become a risk and eventually to commit an attack inside the European Union. Well, just some of the activities. I will go to the last one. As I mentioned, it's quite relevant when we work together, especially with the US actions in the land. We have European Union Internal Forum with the industry, but the main providers are represented, Google, Facebook, Twitter. We also have the less, let's say, known providers now working in this one. As we try to mitigate the propaganda machine, especially the Islamic State, they try to move away from the big platform to the smaller one. In 2015, 2016, 80% of the activity of the propaganda machine of Islamic State and Al-Qaeda was in Facebook, was in Twitter, was in Google, was in YouTube. Now it's less than 45%. Now they move to Telegram, they move to other areas where they try to be more resilient. They try to avoid the action of the European of the city police forces and intelligence, and also the companies taking care of this propaganda machine. This is why we have now a strong cooperation with them, trying to set up a platform of referral. You will see the there's something here. This is Bill Gates sending me something, yeah? So what is that? We try to set up a referral platform in order to prevent the whack-a-mole effect. That when you can push, when you can flag any kind of violent content, any terrorist content with one area, they pop up in another one. So we tried to convince the provider to have this platform in order to prevent that the terrorist content was moving from one way to another and still propagating and disseminating this terrorist threat coming online. So what we are right now? Well, now we are in the middle of kind of discussion about are we going very fast, are we going too slow, we need more European Union, do we have enough? So what shall we do? We also playing a kind of Tetris with the whole community that we have. As I mentioned, the European Union was building blocks, so we have different systems facing different challenges. But we never thought that this system had to talk to each other. We have the Europol information system, we have the Schengen information system, we have Eurodac for asylum seekers, we have visa information system, we will have a future European ESTA ATS. We have many systems serving security purpose, but they are serving different areas, and they never talk to each other. Also, we have, because of the strong data protection regime, now we have to connect them. Now we have to make sure that all the systems are talking to each other, and they can provide one single response when it's needed for the security cooperation of the European Union. And we call this interoperability. This is what we are focused on. Connecting police and intelligence, providing integrated analysis, revising the correct plans about weapons, precursors, terrorist financing, PNR, see the regulation of Europol and the European Union is strong enough to fight terrorism, and to be sure that the European Union architecture is solid, efficient, effective, and coordinated system in full use for the all member states. I will stop here, and I will be happy to take any question just now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Manuel Navarrete. We have been touching on a number of very interesting points, and surely the audience wants to go deep into some of those approaches. Please, would you be so kind as to identify yourself?
Sure. Hi, thank you for the great lecture. Lionel, Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection Agency. Could you please tell me a little bit more about the report that your agency released last week about the role of females in the IS, and also about the statement that the German foreign minister pushed out last week, saying that they have over 1,000 unaccounted IS fighters who have returned.
Well, thank you for your question. I cannot speak about the Europol report. About what the German minister said is difficult for me to. I think he will know. It's Germany. I mean, we see contribution to the member states, and we make assessment about that. I cannot recall specifically what is the exact contribution to Germany, but it's a question I think you should ask the Minister of Germany and speak for the minister. Related to the, as I mentioned, I mean, we put a lot of effort on following the propaganda machine of specifically ISIS. We realize that this is one of the strongest components of the Islamic State. In fact, what we try to do, thanks to the effort of the coalitions in Syria and Iraq, when they were sure that the so-called Islamic State would collapse, they tried to keep the virtual caliphate alive. This is why we try to have a parallel line of action the military point of view, from the activity in Syria and Iraq. This is one way, but in the meantime, trying to see how we can mitigate this virtual caliphate to survive the physical caliphate. And so we focus on different activities of the propaganda machine of ISIS. And one of the way we learn is that they specifically target women to be part of the Islamic Caliphate for different reasons. One, because they try to change the role of women to become more active. Traditionally, they were just supporting the mujahideen, supporting the terrorists, the very passive role. But they try to promote a more active role of women on combating in Syria and Iraq, but also in the home countries, the European Union, and I guess also in the US. Second, because they want to create a real caliphate, so they need manpower. So they were asking women to come to these territories in order to produce a generation of Islamic State junkies. In fact, I mean, there are thousands of women and minors now in rotation camp or in different camps in Syria and Iraq, of this propaganda machine that seduce many people coming there to produce the next generation of I would say, members of the Islamic Caliphate for this one. And then I say also they revitalize the role of the mujahida, the women that they took action as a terrorist. Also somehow to blame and shame men, because when there was some lack of activity or there was no enough reaction for the men to be very active and to be brave in the combat, they also use this propaganda to say, also we can have a battalion of women doing the job, the men they are not able to do it. But in the meantime, they became really, there was part of the propaganda machine. I have to say they were very successful because, I mean, you compare the propaganda machine of Al-Qaeda or ISIS, it's totally different. ISIS is very attractive, it's very modern. They use, let's say, the image, and they use, they don't understand very well what is the target of, especially the millennials. The people that they are between 18 and 25, and they could be easily attracted by different ways of communicating by social media. So they are very modern, very creative on this propaganda machine. In fact, now that the so-called virtual caliphate disappeared, the only propaganda machine is still alive is because many of the supporters became propagandists, and they are the one now still keeping the message of Islamic State online. Al-Qaeda is very traditional. Al-Qaeda still have this typical image of the old guy sitting in a place with the graphic at the back and speaking for half an hour, 1 hour about the traditional of jihad and all the precedents and all the historical reason for this. So it's not that attractive for youngsters to be part of Al-Qaeda. But they really did a good job on being creative and targeting a specific area where they can obtain some benefits to so-called support the Islamic Caliphate. The report is online, you can have it, right? To see how,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for your talk. I'm Louise Shelley. I'm a professor at George Mason University and run the Terrorism, Transnational Crime and Corruption Center. We now have the responsibility of preparing the database for the country reports on terrorism put out by the State Department. And I'm really looking forward to your seeing your data. Can you also talk a little bit more about the trends of what methods the terrorists have been using in 2018? Are they using vehicles? Are they using firearms? Are they imported firearms into Europe? What can you say about the methods of the attacks?
Well, thank you for your question. In fact, you can see everything on the TSAT, the Terrorism Situation Report that will be released today. We will see that the terrorists inside the European Union, most of the attacks are connected to the phenomenon of so-called lone actors. We have not identified any group, acting in a synchronized way with sophisticated means attacking European Union citizens. So most of them, they are connected to the so-called incitement of terrorism, connected to religious inspiration, as the manipulation. We also detect that in most of the cases, the religious inspiration is not the only cause of becoming radical. We have a few cases of mental illness, mental instability, a few cases of retaliation. So people that they embraced violence, and also at the end they became a kind of inspired by Islamic State, but just a kind of excuse to commit a violent crime. So there is no any more strong religious component on this attack. It's more about retaliation, about personal revenge. When we speak about these attacks connected to the incitement and the propaganda machine of Islamic States.
But the techniques that they're using.
Yeah, because we are speaking about long actors, they are non-sophisticated. Most of the attacks are using knives or even cars. The only one or two when we are connected to firearms. Also because, I don't know if we can say this in the US. Can I?
Go ahead.
Because we have a strong regulation on firearms possession. Don't quote me, please. So, I mean, we have a strong regulation in the European Union on firearms possession and also about precursors. We reinforce the control of precursors, still not perfect. And I have to say that now we are working with the online providers, especially Alibaba, Amazon. We have now a cooperation with them because 50% of the precursors that were used for terrorism are purchased online. So we have the cooperation of Alibaba, Amazon, of the big ones. I think we cannot identify. So they are very cooperative. Business first, of course, but they are very cooperative. So they are non-sophisticated, and the target remain open space and security forces, because they represent the authority inside the European Union, and they are easy target because many countries, especially France, Belgium, they redouble the deployment of police forces and also the army in strategic points. So they became an easy target, easy identified or target, but also difficult to deal with in the European Union.
Hello, thank you for your remarks. My name is Stacy Schamper. I work for the International Civil Society Action Network. We have an alliance of about 60 civil society organizations globally countering terrorism and violent extremism. And my question for you is, given some of the challenges with joint analysis and coordination and the sensitivity of the information, what role do you see, if any, for civil society to play in cooperating with Europol in countering terrorism? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. I think it's an essential role. The intelligence and the law enforcement, we have to deal with the worst part of terrorism, which is the violent one. So this is why we have weapons, this is why we have strong teams, and we have strong analytical system in order to collect information. That was difficult now because we are not collecting now massive information. Every single operation we collect almost 2-3 terabytes of information, which is a lot. So we have to identify, we have to be searchable, and we have to process. Because we want to be sure that the information we obtain have a criminal meaning, have criminal purpose. We cannot just collect information over the board. Because also we'll use our databases. So it's essential that we focus on the criminal activity connected to terrorism and no other. But terrorism is not possible without radicalization, and it's not possible without propaganda. And we are not the one developing counter-narrative. We are not the one good on, how do you say, engage with the public. We represent the government. We also represent the law. Sometimes it's difficult to be connected to the public, but I think that the cooperation that we have in some areas with public society about counter-narrative, about public statements, about mobilization against terrorism, against hate crimes, against radicalization is quite essential. I will give you an example of my experience working against terrorism in Spain. For many years, as Professor Renal said, I was working against ETA, the terrorist group in the Basque Country. They killed almost 1,000 people in Spain, and in Europe more than that, a lot of them. And we fight to limit the capability of the violence for ETA. But they killed in 2013, 11, they killed Miguel Blanco. I remember it before. Was before. But they killed a young. He was part of the city hall in the Basque city in Lerma. Miguel Blanco, a very young guy, who was killed, who was kidnapped, and then was killed in 24 hours, asking some political demands. And then they provoked the movement inside the public. We call Basta Ya. We can say stop now. Okay, good translation of that. And this provoked the political and the public reaction against ETA. This was the beginning of the end of ETA. So ETA was not defeated by the Guardia Civil, was not defeated by the police only. It was defeated because the public said, stop now. You defeated, not us. So I think your contribution is essential also to fight against global terrorism.
Mr. Navarrete, muchas gracias. Thank you for your great presentation. It was a question related to two things, interoperability.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Lourdes Vines. I'm the president of the DC chapter of the Inter-American Bar Association. The question was related to interoperability and also what you just mentioned in relation to the previous question, which is collaboration or partnership or engagement. A lot of studies indicate that people feeling disenfranchised are more vulnerable to be captured for this kind of extreme crimes or violence. So I mean, how is the Europol and also the individual members of the union working in terms of that connection, that engagement, not only in terms of tools, technology, but sort of working a joint strategy that will really take care of this from the ground up, in addition to the efforts that go from the top down. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your question. Well, interoperability, as I mentioned, means that we need to have a comprehensive approach of fighting against terrorism. As I said, sometimes the terrorism is only a question for the security forces, the law enforcement, intelligence, and judiciary, and also the military. I don't think this is the case. We have to deal with the specific part of terrorism, which is the most complicated one, because it's the violent part. Terrorism is violent. Really, this is what we are putting our efforts on, identify them, obtain the proper evidence that we are part of terrorism or we are going to commit a crime, and to arrest them and present this to court. So this is the main, but in the meantime, there is a multi-dimension of the fight against terrorism, not to speak about financing terrorism also. So, which is the work of preventing people to become terrorists. Many countries and the European Union, we have a program, or we call it counter-radicalization, but I think it's better to say to prevent engagement. Because 95% of the radical people, they never do any violent crime. They're just radical. You can be very radical, but you're not a violent person. But the question is, what triggers people from radical to really terrorist? The other way around. What is limiting people? What is somehow, what factors can be used to the one they are close to violence, in order to become violent and eventually connected to terrorism? So there is a program inside the European Union of this, and also there are national programs, and some of them they are very successful. Just to give you an example, in 2013, almost all the so-called foreign terrorist fighters coming from Belgium was originated from a place called Würzburg, a small place in Upper Brussels. And so the police were over there for them, but in the meantime, the launched a program of disengagement of people to connect to so-called foreign terrorist phenomenon. With a lot of social workers, with a lot of psychologists, and a lot of assistance to the vulnerable people, especially the young ones, that they were close to take the decision to go to Syria. In less than 2 years, they reduced to zero the people that decided to go to Syria. So I think the social system, the psychological support, the community support is helping. And this, I mean, when somebody decides to be treated in a terrorist group, it's a question for the police. But there are many more that they still don't decide to, and then it's a civil society who can help for this not to happen and not to become terrorists.
Thank you so much for your presentation. My name is Danielle Cotter. I work with a nonprofit that focuses on counterterrorism and countering violent extremism called the Global Center on Cooperative Security, very wordy. My question for you is about the counterterrorism online investigation capacities that you have. And I wondered if financial investigations as they pertain to terrorist activities are a component of that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I think it's, as I said, there is until a few years ago, we mostly focused on the physical part of terrorism. We have almost no, even Al-Qaeda was the first one somehow using as a massive, let's say, propaganda machine, internet. They still was very shy on using for operational purpose. So they were just propagating, they were just ideas, the battlefield also was taking place online. And there was more about reputation, it was more about recognition than really making this operation. As the Islamic State have a different approach. They really want to make use of these possibilities for incitement, for recruitment, for radicalization, for funding. We have some cases of obtaining funding through different social media forums and also through bitcoins. Not that much, but they are there, and we are monitoring it. In the meantime, they try to evade the activity from the intelligence and from the police and from the providers, moving to more difficult areas, as I said, moving to more difficult companies sometimes. You have to bear in mind that everybody is thinking about Facebook, Twitter, Google, with a big company with thousands of people, that they have specific teams that they are working with us, also with the US, on identifying this content and removing and also providing e-evidence. Most of the company, they are 3, 4, 5 people that don't really have this capacity. So we have to find the balance between what we can ask and how information we can obtain from this company. So it's not easy, it's not really straightforward. But they are really cooperating on this one. So they try to move from this very well company to the small one, and also they try to move to the dark web. And many people ask me, this is very worrying. It's difficult to follow the dark web, for sure, but as you move to let's say, to the shadows, so you're not attracting people anymore. Somebody who goes to the dark web to obtain information about the Islamic State is already a supporter of the Islamic State. So you have to worry about him or her in a different way. Without the propaganda machine, without the open space for propagating radical ideas, propagating violence, propagating also humiliating the victims of terrorism, is less attractive to the terrorists. The terrorist is less attractive to the young people. I think it's essential the role of the companies. I think we move from being somehow not too much aware of the role that they can play, to develop their own tools, to be very active on identifying this content and removing, and now setting up a specific measure to prevent that this situation of using massively the propaganda machine by social media is not happening again. So I think it's a good cooperation right now. We still have to do more, but I think I can assess that it's a good cooperation that we have right now.
Thank you so much. My name is Anne Lilly, and I'm with Leapfrog Solutions. My question is, there are some people in the United States who think that because ISIS has lost most of its physical landmass, that terrorism is on the way out. I, of course, do not agree with that. But can you please comment on the expected areas of terrorism going forward, whether it's alt-right or lone wolf? Where do you see the most problems coming?
Well, it's difficult to make a global assessment about terrorism. Terrorism is a volatile environment, but at the meantime it's very adaptable. And they can, I think the efforts of the intelligence community and the law enforcement community, the European Union, but also here at the US, as from this afternoon, I don't know how many meetings we have with the CBP, with the HSI, with the FBI, with the Treasury, so there's a good cooperation with them. The effort is really to identify them as soon as possible and to prevent that they can become a threat and that they can obtain the means to commit a terrorist attack. We're speaking mostly about sophisticated attack related to jihadist terrorism. So this is why it's a kind of permanent effort to delay, reduce, mitigate, deter. So there is no one single formula we can use to prevent the terrorist attack. We try to use the whole spectrum, even some administrative measures, in order to prevent that the terrorists can obtain the means, or they can have the opportunity or even the decision to commit terrorist attack. I think this is why we have seen later inside the Western countries and also throughout the world that we have suffered less sophisticated attack because the capability to prepare, organize, fund, and execute this kind of terrorist attack is no more there, still not there, because of the strong action taking place in Syria, because of the dedication of the intelligence service, and also the reduction of availability of means to commit the attacks. This is why now we have seen that mostly they are long actors, people that they are with very non-sophisticated means. They can take some kind of actions and killing, fortunately, not too many people, but some of them in almost in an improvised way. So there's not a very strong plan. Because of that, they are quite unpredictable. Because the more time you need to prepare a group, the more time you need to communicate, the more time you need to obtain the means, financing this, the more time for the intelligence and for the law enforcement to detect and to prevent this to happen. When you are isolated and you are self-radicalized and when you are obtaining the means from the internet, you have to be very, very close to this person in order to stop them. And the only way to be very close to them is to be in the same social media forum where he is. So this is why we develop efforts on working on social media, working as a police inside the internet environment to detect, prevent, and obtain evidence to identify any conspiracy, any possibility that they can take some kind of action. Still are most of this is the same thing. We have seen in the European Union some rising activity related to right-wing violence. It's still not comparable with jihadism, but because the strong political meaning of right-wing violence is pretty much on the discussion. We have a recent case in Germany where a politician was shot by the right-wing extremists or terrorists, and this triggered a lot of political reaction inside the European Union. During the last 3 years, the information exchange related to right-wing is increasing. It's not comparable again to the Islamic State, but we see that the United States also they are identifying this threat and they are now focusing resources and information on the right-wing terrorism inside the European Union. But we are watching everything that moves. We try to anticipate.
Thank you very much for doing this. Jeff Selden, I cover national security for VOA. Just quickly to follow up on your comments about the information exchange on right-wing extremists. To what extent is Europol and member countries are they tracking the movements, the travel of right-wing extremist figures and sympathizers, perhaps the way that countries have been trying to track the jihadist travelers for many years now? My original question, though, was how would you assess the threat of the foreign terrorist fighters who are still in conflict zone, perhaps being held by the SDF or by Iraqi security forces? The U.S. has been encouraging Europe to take many of these people back. How do you assess the threat of bringing them back? And on the flip side, is there still a danger from them if they're being held or not being held and they're still in theater from the communications, the interactions, other ways that they might be wielding influence or exerting influence over family members or acquaintances back home?
Well, thank you for your question. As I said, I mean, any kind of terrorism is a target for the law of the community inside the European Union. Right wing became more relevant because some attacks that happened in the past, and also because some more cases that we have, and there is an increase of information exchange. And also there's an increase of monitoring the different radical groups connected to right-wing extremism inside the European Union. But still, I mean, when you see the figures, they are not comparable to, also the lethality is not comparable to the so-called jihadist terrorism. But the members, they have redoubled the efforts of this specific area, and in 2018, the figures there, I mean, they were, I can say it by heart, but I mean, they were more or less on right-wing connected people than the year before. I think we were talking about 12 in 2017, 2016, 12, 20 in 2017, and we speak about 40 people in 2018. But you can see the figures in the visa. Don't take it. So there is an increase of activity of the members on this one. Well, I think that the intelligence community and also the law enforcement consider the terrorists, so-called terrorist fighters, they were in Syria, Iraq, or many of the area. They have a very high threat to the European Union security. Most of them, they were connected to terrorist activity, they have military training, and so I think they represent a serious threat for our own security. The question of what will be the action of the benefit on the people that are arrested there is not so. Because first, we have to go case by case. There is no global solution, there is no global policy for the people that could be connected to the criminal terrorist activity in this country to bring them back to the European Union or any other territory. Because first you have to identify them, who they are, which is not easy. You go to Iraq. I went to Iraq a couple of times to discuss this, and then I have to go to the US. Because every time I ask it for the ESTA, then the CDP is telling me, well, you have been in Iraq. Yes, I told you about for a good reason, trying to solve the problem. But this is something difficult to explain sometimes when you're confronted with the officers in the desk. But they are very nice to me, and they allow me to go here. So they represent a major threat because of the military training, because of the capacity they still have, and also the strong influence they can have in different people. But there is no global, let's say, formula for that. And every member state are taking case by case this issue. First, because you have to determine if there is a criminal case. Bear in mind that these people are committing a crime in Syria, in Iraq, in Turkey, which is not European Union territory. So you have to obtain the evidence from there. Then you have to, if there's any evidence, you have to see if the evidence can be admitted into a European court. So you have to bring this evidence, you have to keep the chain of custody to be used in the criminal court. And then you need to have a legal framework, which is an extradition process. I don't think how many European countries or the US has an extradition agreement with Syria, Iraq, or Kurdistan is not really a country that you can have. So there are many difficulties to do so. So they represent a security risk. They are monitoring by some of the intelligence service, but still what to do, how to do it, and what is the criminal component of that is assessed case by case by the different national countries and the national authority, judiciary and law enforcement.
Our time is coming to an end, so the last question is.
Jay's
not the
vote.
last one. I may have one for you.
Jay's vote, Customs and Border Protection. Thank you for coming. It was a great speech.
You had to.
Question: Can you? I think you agree that understanding the motivations and the culture of your enemy is the best way to defeat them. Can you speak a little bit about the diversity of Europol's officers, the recruiting process, the senior ranks? Is there a diversity of religions amongst the organization? Also, I'm curious about the insider threat potential. Is that something that is that a threat that you face? Is there a continuous vetting process for the officers in that capacity as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very fortunate to have people from different nations, the European Union, also from different backgrounds. And I think in order to deal with the propaganda machine of ISIS, we have linguistic, we have translator, we have specialists that deal with big data, we have specialists on connected to the stakeholders, to the open source providers, we have city specialists. We have a variety of skills that in order to become a center of excellence on specific areas. So I think we are very fortunate that we can. It's not my case. We can select the best of the police forces to be part of Europol. I was just there just by chance, maybe. But I think we managed to have also a lot of people coming from different minorities inside the European Union, the people that speak Arabic, that speak Russian, also for different religions, because for us, I was born Catholic. It's principle for me to understand the dynamic of the rhetoric of Islam, the rhetoric of the radicalism, the rhetoric of the Salafism is not easy task. So we need people that are expert on the language, but also on the whole dynamic of. I think we are very fortunate to have this Europol. We don't have enough because we have this variety, as I mentioned. Now the main problem that we face is we are dying of data. I think we have too many data that we are not able to digest. So to apply artificial intelligence tools to be able to digest all the data that we are able to now receive from the member states and provide proper analytical support is really very, very challenging. I mean, it's going to be worse. 5G is not going to make our life easier. But well, this is we have to try to cope with the technology challenge, which is the major one. The second question was about the threats inside.
Yeah, insider threat issues. How you combat that?
I mean, we try to provide a comprehensive approach. I mean, the Europol role is to connect the dots internationally. The member states, they have their own capacity to identify the threats, to collect information, and to take actions because they are responsible. We have no executive powers. But Europol became quite relevant, especially because lately there's a lot of connection with. I never said we don't identify too much connection between terrorism and organized crime. In fact, there is more connection between terrorism and disorganized crime, meaning criminality. Why? Because the terrorists, they are fishing in the same place. They're also the people that have criminal records. They are vulnerable to be recruited, and especially when we speak, the first time we mention radicalization in prison, which is one of the major challenges that we have right now. People that they have been sentenced to a few years because of conspiracy, because of the preparation to commit a terrorist attack, they will serve 5-7 years according to the European legislation, and then they will be released with not too much security measures most of the time. I mean, how these people will be, what the risk of these people after having served the sentence is something that we try to think of, how we can mitigate this. Also, the infection that is produced in some of the European Union prisons. People that they are criminal, that eventually became attracted to violence, because also it's a way to escape from the prison situation. We have a big problem about prisons, radicalization, but also we have some action taking place on the European level to identify and to mitigate this. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. you, Manuel. Perhaps we shouldn't leave the room today without knowing a little bit more about what is going to happen with Brexit in your area, in your body, particularly in the center. Actually, we're in the United States, and the United Kingdom is one of the 5 eyes. So it makes all the sense to now ask you, in the most likely exit of the UK from the European Union, what is going to happen to experts and officers from the UK in Europol and more completely within the European Counter Terrorism Centre?
Well, I think that, as I said, I'm a practitioner, so I'm free to have a political opinion, so don't take that. The discussion about Brexit is a political discussion. Also, the Commission was quite clear to Europol, said, it's very simple for Europol, do nothing. This is a political discussion, you are a European agency, so shut up. Very straightforward from the Commission, but I should be. The question is about the cooperation in security. I have to say that since the Brexit was announced due to the decision of the UK, the referendum to leave the European Union, we have more cooperation with the UK than before. So we have an increase of information exchange with the UK. They have been more active in different areas, not only terrorism, but also in different areas. So there is an increase of cooperation with the UK. I cannot say this related to Brexit, but it was just after the Brexit decision that they reinforced this use of European Union tools for that. So the Brexit will have consequences for the European Union and the UK. First, because they will have no access to European Union tools, the European arrest warrant, the joint investigation team, the access to the Schengen information system. All this, which is part of the treaty, which is part of the being European Union member, will be depending still on the political final decision. But if they just leave the European Union, this will be cut. So there will be no longer members of Europol. And we have to find for alternative way of cooperation. I think that we have an operational agreement with the US as a third party, so we can exchange personal data, we can have limited access to the information, we can work together in many areas, and I guess that the negotiation after the Brexit will go, at least my guess, in the same direction. So to have an operational agreement to preserve as much as possible the cooperation that we have right now. But for sure there will have an impact because they will have no longer access to specific tools of European Union cooperation. And they are quite important. So this is quite about the first area. The second is about, we have excellent professionals coming from the UK. In fact, until the head of Europol now is a woman, is the former head of the Federal Police Intelligence, Catherine Waller. But before was Rob Wainwright, just a year ago. British guy from the MI5. So I think they are quite relevant. They are very practical, and they have strong, because of the historical fight against terrorism, the strong tradition of fighting terrorism. So this will be part of the agreement. They will be part of it. I mean, to be a member of Europol and to be part of the European Union agency, you have to be a European Union citizen. So if the UK is no longer a European Union member, therefore this condition will not be anymore for the British citizens. So then we have to find a way what will be the final status of this person. But there will be a big loss because I mean they are really good, they are very committed, and they were really strong pillar of the European Union security. But we have to deal with that. This is not the first time that you remember this the diagram with the arrows coming in and coming out? Well, sun is coming out, the big one. We try to mitigate this by reinforcing the European Union. I'm sure that I think that the UK citizen and the European citizen deserve to keep the level of security what we have right now. So we try to do all this. I don't know if it's good enough for you.
I should follow. Well, thank you very much indeed. As I said at the very beginning, it has been a real pleasure to listen to you today, to your information, to your insight. Guess that everyone in the room is now better informed about European Union's counterterrorism efforts and in particular Europol's. And on behalf